What's up, Gibbs? It's guys. Let's talk about workflow today. So workflow is one of those things that if you can really lock it in, it's going to save you so much time and so much energy throughout the whole process, from beginning to end, production, recording, mixing, mastering, the whole shebang. It's going to save you like literally hours if you can figure this out. I'm going to show you mine today, but just remember, mine is a way, but it's not the way. Everybody's going to have their own, because I work with different instruments and artists and genres and all the things. Like, everybody has their own thing. So just remember that you might find some things that you can take from mine, and then there's going to be things that you're going to be like, nah, dude, trash. That's fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Everybody's got their own, but just remember, mine's a way, not the way. Okay, let's get into it. So I'm sure this looks familiar to you. The blank canvas, right? You get this idea that pops in your head and you just want to jump in and just start full creator mode, right? You're going to jump in to a blank canvas that has nothing there. So you're starting from scratch. And well, first, I just want to say that this is not DAW specific, okay? I know I'm using Logic. I use Logic. It's just what works for me. But if you're in any other DAW, that's fine. This is not DAW specific. This is more about efficiency than DAWs. You see that there's nothing here, right? It's not prepped. It's not really ready for you to start creating. So we want to change that. And what we can do to change that is create a template. And what I like to do is create a template for each part of the process. There's a template for recording, there's a template for production, there's a template for mixing and mastering. I like to separate every part of the process so I can just have my mixing hat on when I'm mixing, or my production hat on when I'm producing, or my mastering hat on when I'm mastering, right? I set up each one of my sessions with a specific template so I can just stay laser focused on that portion of the process. Yes, I do want to have mixing and mastering in mind when I'm recording or when I'm producing, right? Because it's going to help me in that process. But that just stays in the back of my mind. I don't have to, the way I set up my sessions, I'm not going to be distracted by those things. I can just sit here and produce. Okay, so we're going to talk about templates, and we're going to create a new template, but also I'll show you my templates and then how I set them up and everything, so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on in my brain, right? But I just want you to know, like, templates, cool and everything, but that's not the only thing we're going to talk about. That's kind of like phase one, and then we'll go into the other stuff. But first, let's open up some templates here. You go to File, go to New from Template, and see, these are all my templates right here, right? So I have a mastering, a mixing, a production, and a recording template. And I'll explain why here in a second. But the first part of the process is production, right? So let's just open up my production template. As you can tell, it's not just some blank canvas, right? And this is literally me just opening it up and boom, it's ready to go for me. All right, so I'll kind of walk through what I do here, and maybe it could give you some ideas or whatever. But the first thing I have here is a reference track. Let's say an artist comes to me and is like, hey, I want this song to sound kind of like that Drake song, right? So I'm going to go get that Drake song, and I'm going to throw it in there into this track right here, and this will be my reference track. There are plugins that I use for reference tracks when I'm in the mixing phase and the mastering phase. But in here, all I'm really paying attention to is the sonics of the song that we're referencing, and kind of like arrangement, I guess. But I'm not too worried about it. So I just throw it in the first track. I have it muted right here so I can just A/B it like this. So when it's muted, I'm listening to my production. When I hit solo, I'm listening to the reference. So I can it's real quick, A, B, boom. Then I have, my bass, and I have a bus set up for my bass. Every single instrument, I have 2 instances of each instrument, and then I have it bussed to its own bus. If you're like Leslie Brathwaite, that dude only has a bus for, he's just strictly mixing, and this is production, but he has a bus that's only for instruments, and then another one for vocals, and that's it. I have a ton of buses. I use a lot of buses, but so to each his own. But I have my drum buses and my instrument buses. So if you look here, for me, when I open up a session, I want to start creating, everything that I will ever need personally, the way that I produce, is right here. If I need, okay, it's like, oh, I got a kick, I'm going to throw it right here. Oh, I have 2 kicks. And the reason why I have 2 of everything is because I like to layer things. And it's like, well, if I have, 4 layers of a snare, then, but I only have 2, that's fine. Just Command D, and I create another one. Command D, and I create another one. Just name that 3, that one, 4, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Boom. Okay. So basically, I set it all up this way. So now I have everything I need in my production. I can just get going. I also want to make sure that all my routing is done. Okay, so I'm going to pull these back. If you notice, this bass bus is bus 18. The drums bus is bus 1. The instrument bus is bus 10. And then I have a mix bus. I have my reference track. I have all my effects that I usually don't use effects in production because I'm usually the one that's going to be mixing it. I'm usually the producer and the recording engineer and the mixing engineer and the mastering engineer. That's just kind of like, with the people that I work with, that's pretty much, they just trust me enough to just say, just do it, right? So because I know that I'm going to be mastering most of the stuff, then I don't really worry too much about the effects, but it's there if I need it, right? And then I have an effects bus, so which all my effects are routed to that bus. Okay, so let's look at the routing real quick, because when you're setting up your template, you really need to make sure that all your routing is here. I'm just going to do it here. It's faster. Make sure all your routing is done correctly, because if, man, you got that one track that's just like not sitting, and you get all the way down to the end of your production, you're like, what is up with this? And then you realize it's routed, and it just threw off the whole production, because you've been messing with this thing so long, this hi-hat that's just not sitting right or whatever, just because it's routed to the wrong place. But anyways, so I have everything opened. Now I'm going to make sure that my inputs and my outputs are done correctly. Let's take a look at the inputs and the outputs. Okay, my bass bus is bus 18. And then I have my 2 bass tracks. I want to make sure that my bass tracks are routed output out into my my bass bus. Okay, so these need to say bus 18, which they do. Okay, bus 18, going into bus 18, and then my bus 18 is going out to bus 32, which is my mix bus. And then my mix bus will go out to my stereo out. So I need to go through and make sure that all of my instruments are routed to the correct buses. And so these are routed to bus 2. Well, here's my kick bus, and that's bus 2, so that's good. My kick bus is routed to bus 1, which is going into the drum bus, which is bus 1, that's good. And my drum bus is going to bus 32, which is my mix bus. Cool. So that's good. And I'm just going to go down the line, all the way down, and make sure all my instruments are routed to the correct bus, and that bus is routed correctly to the next bus, and then so on and so forth. Okay? So we're going to do that with the whole thing, and I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me do that. Just know it's correct because, I've been using it long enough. I know it's correct. Let's look at the markers. The markers is basically your arrangement. So if I have I have 12 markers set up right here, and it doesn't mean I'm going to use all 12, but let's say this is the intro, and this is verse 1, and oh wait, my intro is only 4 bars. That's fine. I can just pull this way to 4 bars, and now, boom, goes into my first verse. Oh, well, my first verse is actually this long. Well, that's fine. Oh, Chinese. Right there. And then, okay, I don't want that there. That's in the way. So let's pull that down. All right. And this is my hook. Okay, so you get the point. This is your arrangement. It's just like, it's not like a necessary thing, but it's kind of like a visual, kind of shows you where you're at in your song. And it's just nice for organization purposes. Now, if you look over here, you notice that everything is a different color, right? If you color code all your stuff, if you're anything like me, then color coding is very important. The way I like to do it is all my main buses these 3 will be a darker shade of whatever it is. So dark, and then these are lighter, right? There's dark, and then my kick bus and all the other little buses are a little bit darker than the actual instrument itself, which is a little bit lighter shade. And that's just how I do it. And if you look at the instruments, everything's color coded because I'm a visual person. It works for me. You don't have to, but it works for me. The next thing I want to say is I would recommend just making sure that your template is, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Your template is at the sample rate that you like working in. For me, I like 48K. So you go down to project settings, audio, and 48K. Sometimes you'll get stuff from other people and it'll be a different sample rate, like 44.1, and that's fine. You can just change it or whatever. But for me, if I'm doing every part of my process, all my templates, they're all at 48K. Okie dokie. And if you really want to learn more about sample rates, just look it up. If you didn't know how to create a bus or, do the routing and all that stuff, I'll do like a quick little example just to show you what I do or how to do it. And that's really you just go here, new audio track. If you look over here, there's key commands for everything. So if I hold down Option and Command and then press A, it'll create a new audio track for me, right? And let's do another one. So let's say I didn't have a guitar. So guitar 1, guitar 2. If I click one, I hold down Shift and click the other one, it'll highlight both of them. Then I can create a track stack. So Shift Command D, and it'll do a summing stack. Don't do a folder stack. Do a summing stack, and it'll create a bus. And then I can do this as my guitar bus. Boom. I just created a bus. But I'm not done. I have to make sure it's routed correctly. So we go find it. So here's my guitar bus, and here's my guitars. Bus 19, bus 19. Okay, we're good. But look at this. This is going to stereo out. I don't want it to go to stereo out. I want it to go to the mix bus. So I find the mix bus, bus 32, and I change it to bus 32. And now my guitars are routed correctly. Don't forget that step. It's easy to forget. But either way, I'm going to delete this now because I don't need it. I already have some guitars in there. So that's that. Now you have your template and it's all done. Everything is set up exactly the way you want, right? All your plugins. So you notice I have some just placeholder plugins that I normally use, right, on all my stuff. And just set those up and everything. But now that you have everything set up, now you can go and save the template. Let's do that. So what we'll do is File, and then Save as Template. I'm not going to save this because, you see, I already have a production one. Production. And then you just hit save. I'm hitting cancel. And that's how you do it. Now, just got to let you know, I've been working with Dave Matthews and Katy Perry and Kid Cudi, and it's been great. And Kid Cudi, really, he's been hitting me up lately about this new song called Day and Night that he's got in his head, and he wants to record it. You know, he actually wants me to produce it, and he's going to come in here, and I'll be the recording engineer, and then I'm going to be the mixing engineer, and he wants me to master it too. It's going to be freaking awesome, right? So what I did was I created this folder for Kid Cudi. Obviously, I'm joking. I wish, but no. But I did this so I could do more of kind of like I created like a mock-up type of file management system that I use for all my projects. And hopefully this helps you. So what I do is whatever artist I'm working with, I will, create a folder for them. In this case, we're acting like we're creating Day and Night for his new project. And what I have is an audio files folder and a project files folder for every single one of my artists, right? So project files, that is your actual session file, the actual Logic file or Pro Tools file, whatever. And then, if you see in here, I have one for my master. My mastering session is different. It's going to be a separate session than my mixing and my production and my recordings. So each file, when I'm done with that, or at the beginning, it doesn't matter, you just save it in the right one. So in this case, we're doing Day and Night. I just put these in there because I love those songs. But this time we're working on Day and Night. So we'll save it in there. The mix file, we'll save it in there, and so on and so forth, okay? This pre-edits, I will explain what that is when we get to it. But the audio files, what that is every single audio file, whether it's trackouts, stems, the final mix file, the final master, those all have a place in here. And when we get done with that specific part of the process, we're going to save the audio file. When we bounce it down, we'll save it in here. Okay? So now that you understand kind of how the file management is, we're actually going to go through and act like we're doing this whole production for Kid Cudi's new song, Day and Night. We're going to start with the production, right? And I already set this up. So we're finished with the production, right? There's two things that I do, or two ways that I bounce it down, okay? The first way is I bounce it down with all tracks individually and put it in the trackouts folder. So that way we can pull all those files in to when we get to the mixing phase, we can pull it all into that session individually, and we can start mixing. The second thing is I like to bounce it down and it all as one file, right? It's like we're bouncing down the production as a song, right? As an instrumental or a beat. And I'll show you the reasons why I do that. So to do all the tracks individually, we're going to go to File and Export, and I'll do all tracks as audio files. What I'm going to do is make sure that I'm in the right one, which we are, right? So Kid Cudi, audio files, Day and Night, trackouts. And if you don't know what the difference between trackouts and stems are, which there's probably a lot of you that don't know, and it's very confusing, and it freaking pissed me off for so long because people say stems and trackouts, like, what's the difference, right? So just for easy understanding, I guess, it's stems are groups of instruments, and trackouts are the individual instruments. So like if I have a bunch of harmony vocals and I bounced them down as one audio file together, that would be a stem. If I bounce down all the drums together in one audio file, that's a stem. If I bounce down just the kick, that's a track out. Just the lead vocal, that's a track out. So stems, groups, and track outs individual. So I'm going to track outs because this is going to be track outs. All individual files. I'm going to do dry because I am mixing it. So I'm just going to wait for all the effects. So wet and dry. Wet has effects and plugins and all that stuff on it. I don't want to export them with the effects baked into it. So I'm going to bypass all the effects plugins, and I'm not going to include any pan automation and all that stuff that I did. If I don't do this, then it's going to bounce it down as a wet file, and I don't want that. I want to do that in the mixing phase. So I'm going to bypass the plugins, and then I'm going to make sure that you have it set to extend file length to the end of the project, which is going to take it all the way out to the end of this little arrow here, which is the end of the project. Can you see that? No, you can't see that. Let me move my face. Do you see this little arrow right here, right in the corner? So this is the end of the project. The yellow part, that's the end of the cycle. Let me move my face back. Okay, so I can either set it to only the cycle range or the end of the project. I choose end of the project because for some reason, I don't know why, maybe it's a logicism or a Mac thing, but when I hit the cycle range only, for some reason it doesn't do it. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, but I know for sure that this one always does it the way I want it. And I'll show you why I like to have it that way when it actually exports and we get to the mixing portion. So export, this white bar here, if it goes all the way across, that means it exported to the end of the file. If it sat here and just did a little bleep, bloop, bleep, bloop, bleep, bloop, bleep, bloop, then it stopped right here, then you know it did not do what it was supposed to do. Now, let's go check. Audio files, day and night, track outs, dry. There they are, baby. Yeah. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bounce the whole project down into one file, one instrumental. Okay? And this is actually going to do just the cycle range, not the whole project. So make sure that you make sure that the cycle range here, oh gosh, whatever. The cycle range here is the actual whole project, okay? The whole beat, the whole song, the whole production. So what we're going to do is save it inside. Make sure we're in audio files, right? Audio files. Go to stems, because remember, this is the whole group of everything. That's all the instruments together. So it's a stem. And this is a wet stem. And the reason why is because we're going to use it for the recording process. And I want the artist to be able to hear. I don't want them to have to listen to a dry recording when they're trying to record vocals, right? So we're going to set it in wet, bounce. It'll bounce the whole project and put it in there. Let's take a look. Stems, wet, boom, there it is. We cannot forget this. We have to save it, save the actual project file into, where are we at? Project files, into the production file, right? Which it's already saved, but we would save it, and sure, we can replace it, whatever. So now we have all of the track outs. We have the main stem of the instrumental, and then we have the actual project file saved. We're good on the production. And this is the recording template. You see that the only thing in here are vocals. You got background vocals, lead vocals, you got harmonies, you got addies. We call ad-libs addies around here in this stew. Yeah, man. And then you got hooks, and then you got hook backgrounds and hook harmonies and all that stuff, okay? This is only about recording the vocal. So you see this beat right here, right? That is where we're going to throw in, oh, we were in it, our stem of the whole production. So the artist can hear the song. And the reason why I do this, and I don't throw the vocals, I have a vocal set or a recording session separate from a production session, is because yes, we are recording instruments into one and vocals in another. When I'm recording, I want as little amount of latency as possible. So I want to have just this audio file for my beat because that's all the artist needs. And it allows me to come in here to my project and go audio. Oh my gosh. I told you wrong. Okay. Logic Pro, settings, audio, and I can bring my buffer size all the way down, which is the slowest amount of latency, right? You look at the resulting latency. Right now, it's at 24.4 milliseconds, round trip 48.9. If I bring it down to 32, then it'll bring it down to 7, which is, well, technically 3. But we don't want the person recording to hear an echo when they're recording. And the only way we can do that is by allowing our computer to have as much processing power as possible, so we get rid of all the instruments and all the extra files and all the extra buses and all that stuff from the production, and we just bounce down this file and throw it in there. So all we have that's recording is your vocals, and your computer doesn't get bogged down, and it allows you to have lower latency. That's why I do it. I also made this just so we can save some time, because I threw in the little blips of audio so we can pull out these track outs as well. Okay, so he came and he recorded. Kid Cudi was in my stew, dude. And then he recorded. And then, yeah, we're done. So let's do the track outs. Remember, file, export, all tracks as audio files. Make sure it's on project end. It's in the right folder, which it is. Bypass the plugins and don't include the pan automation unless you want to, but I don't. Export, and it's going to drop all the vocals into that same folder with all the dry track outs. Now that we're moving on to the mixing phase, we're going to open up the mixing template. Mixing template, baby. Okay, now we can get to mixing, the real fun stuff. If you look at my mixing template, this is way bigger because it's basically all my production stuff and all of my recording, all the vocals, and then more effects plugins. I want to set up all of my effects plugins to be routed to my effects bus. Remember that. And then I have a mix bus right here. I have all of my my sends set up to all these. And that doesn't mean, just because I have sends on there, it doesn't mean I'm going to use them. But it's there in case I need them. Let's take a look at my stereo out real quick. So I have the God particle, which you haven't seen that on any of my other templates, because the God particle is my favorite saturation on a mix that I've come across. I turn off the limiter and I turn off the EQ. I just want this saturation right here, and I mix into it. I have it on while I'm mixing because I know I'm going to throw it on at the end anyways, so I'm just going to leave it on. Then here comes my reference plugin. Remember, in the production phase, that template had the very first track. Remember, that was the reference track. But now I have it right here because I'm going to go more in depth on getting this song mixed closer to the reference, because that's what my artist is hearing in his head or her head. And they want it to sound similar. So we're going to drop it in here, and this is more intuitive when it comes to reference tracks. So I have that. Then I have my Paz analyzer, and then I have my sound ID. And this right here is just, it's a room correction software. So I don't listen to my speakers at all without this on, right? So I have Cali Audio speakers, and it doesn't matter what, you can have the best speakers in the world, but if you have a bad room, it's going to build up in certain areas and certain frequencies. And this software reads your room, does a room analysis, and then it corrects the frequency buildup areas and flattens out the response, so you get a more clear understanding. You're actually making smart mixing decisions instead of being tricked by your room because it's building up at certain frequencies. So you feel like in your mix, oh, I got to turn that frequency down. But in reality, you didn't need to. It was your room and it was lying to you. So this helps with that. It's not perfect, but it helps. And I think that's it, really. Got my markers. And I personally do a short and long drum reverb, a short, medium, and long instrument reverb, a short and long vocal reverb, a slap delay, short delay, long delay. I know I might have some other buses or some other effects that I want to throw on a send later on, but if you see right here, oh my gosh, I've been sitting in the middle this whole time. Oh my gosh. How long was that? How long was that? Okay, I really hope that doesn't mess up the video, because I really don't want to video this again. This is... I'm sorry. Gosh, wasn't paying attention. Okay, if you look at this bus right here, I have my mix bus at 50, my effects bus at 49, and then my first or my last effects is at 44. So from 44 to 49, that's 45, 6, 7, and 8. That's 4 more buses that I can throw on, like, effects plugins on if I need to. But I know for sure that I'm probably going to use most of these, so it's there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up all of our track outs. And then I'm just going to go start placing them in, right? So the bass, boom. So I don't want to import anything from my production. I just want it to be set to my parameters that I have set in my mix template, okay? So don't import any of those things. Just import the regular file is fine. So you're going to go through and do that for all of them. And I know what you might be thinking. Why wouldn't you just have no busing and just be able to take them all and just drag them in, and then you can rearrange them? Well, then I have to go through all the time of doing all the routing, all the busing, all the namings. I have to redo the naming conventions. I have to set up everything, right? So me spending an extra 2 or 3 minutes to go through and do this 1 by 1 or 2 by 2, I would rather do that than spend 45 minutes to an hour setting up all my buses and routing and all that stuff. Get it? Got it? Good. I want to show you this. These here, this is why I bounced out or exported the audio tracks as until the playback or until the project end, because it takes the whole audio or the whole track and gives me a more consistent, everything is going to be this long. It's going to look just like this. The bass might only be playing in this area, but not in here. That's fine. I don't care. I can chop that area out if I want to. Now, but when I first pull everything in, I want to be able to see everything consistently. It's all about visuals for me. And I want everything to look congruent, and then I can go in, and when I start doing my edits, then I can do that. Before we start touching anything, after we pull in all of our files, right? Let's just act like that was a kick and all that good stuff. Okay, so now we got all of our files in there. Before we start touching it at all, before we mix anything, we're going to save this project file, the pre-edit. And the reason why I do this is because if something happens, let's say in the middle of my mix, or I lose the mix file or whatever, right? And I have to go back, I have it saved from the original, like basically the original copy, unaffected, not touched copy of it in that pre-edits folder now, so I can always revert back to the beginning if I need to. I've never had to do that, but it's there if I need it. And it's like a safety net, and it makes me feel safe. Okay? So now we're done. Now we're going to bounce this. We're done with the mix. Okay? Day and night. Final mix. And it's not in the right spot. Let's go audio files. Day and night. And this is the final mix, right? So I'm going to put in the mix file. Let's open up. We're ready to master, right? So let's open up the master. And this is my mastering template. As you can see, it's very basic. There's hardly anything in here, which is what I want. I don't want to be distracted by anything. I just want to pull in this final mix that we just did. So let's go find it in the mix, pull in the final mix, and then I want to just get to mastering. I'm just going to throw all my plugins on this channel, do my mix, or do my master. I have my reference plugin. I have my paths analyzer. I have my levels plugin for mastering the mix. And basically this is just saying, or telling you how healthy your master is. I reference that just to make sure my dynamic range mainly is why I use it. Make sure that's healthy. And then obviously you got your sound ID. So you see how simple this is. There's no buses, no nothing, because I don't need it. I just want to pull it in, and I don't want to be distracted by any other instruments and all the other tracks and all that stuff. I just want to focus on polishing the song and making it sound good and loud. Okay? So now that we're done with this, let's go, let's bounce this out. This is the master. So day and night, master. And then file, save as, and master, save it there. And I didn't even name it right. Okay, make sure you name it. Now let's go back through. We're done, right? We are done. We finished this project. He can put the song out to the world. Obviously, after he approves it, he would have to approve it. We might have 6 different revisions in here, or however many, just because we had to tweak things or whatever. And then maybe same thing with the master. But either way, everything's done. He approved it, and then it's sent out to the world. So let's go back through and look at all of our. Let's go back through and look at all of our file management. Okay, and we can. This is basically like proof or documentation of everything that we did from beginning to end. And if we ever have to go back to one of those places, like the production or recording or whatever, and fix something, or somebody asks for the track outs or whatever, that's fine, because they ain't gonna catch us slipping. We got all the files right here. So let's check out the audio files. Day and night, there's the master. Mix, there's the mix. Stems, there's the stem for production. track outs. There's all the track outs. The project files. Master. See, I didn't name that correctly. So day and night. Your naming convention is really important. Like, put a good name on all your stuff. Make it very clear what it is. Okay, and then I got my master session. If I need to go back into it. Mixes. Oh my gosh, we didn't save it. See, that's a mistake. Don't forget to save it. So let's say we did save it, okay? All right, that would go in there, and then we got our pre-edit. Oh, see, look at me jacking this stuff up. Day and night. Pre-edit. Okay, we got our pre-edit. Productions. We have our production file. And recordings. We have a recording file. So we can go back in time, besides the mix, because I forgot to save it. See? Shame on me. We could go back to any part of the process, and then we can just do whatever tweaks that we need to do and all that stuff. And everything is documented, very organized and everything. So that is how my brain works when it comes to the process of producing a song. As simply put. I don't know if you're going to take anything from that, if you're going to use anything, or if you're not going to use any of it. That's fine. But at least, like, you kind of see how at least somebody does it, right? And then if you're not doing it, you don't have to do it my way. Just try to figure something out, right? Figure out your own workflow that works for you, and then follow that workflow every single time exactly the same way. So you don't even have to think about it, right? Remember, my way's a way, not the way. And I hope that helped. If you haven't yet, go ahead, like and subscribe and do the notification thingy, the little ding ding. Hit that. And then check out my other videos. I'm actually going to come out with a video of 4 types of compression. And that's going to come soon. I don't know how soon, but it'll be soon. Hopefully tomorrow. But I can't make any promises. It'll definitely be within a week. So be patient and check it out when it comes out. And then I also got a playlist, or a couple playlists, but there's another playlist that's not necessarily like mixing tips or anything like that. This is more instructional type of deal, but it's like, that one's called Journey to Pro, and basically it's just us hanging out together. It's like vlog style. So we're just hanging out, making music. I'm not doing like the instructional thing and teaching or whatever. I'm just sitting down. You get to watch me just be a fly on the wall and watch me like make music, and we get to hang out. So if you got some time on your hands and don't know how to spend it, go check out that playlist, okay? Like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Peace.